The Leafs' next move has been revealed as multiple new reports have dropped, including reports from Pierre LeBrun and Kevin Weeks, revealing a huge trade update surrounding Brad Treliving as the trade deadline inches closer and closer. And who this target is has Leafs fans absolutely fired up. We're going to break down this report and discuss what it means, as this is absolutely crazy. But before we get into it, quick reminder, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. 71% of you who are watching aren't subscribed to the channel, and as the trade deadline approaches, as the Leafs continue to play, we're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news. Darius, this just dropped minutes ago, and it is from Kevin Weeks, and it actually paints a pretty clear picture as to what, from all these reports that have been coming out over the past week or two. We were wondering who that second line center would be and could be that they're targeting. And makes a lot more sense now as this just dropped from Kevin Weeks. I'm speaking to sources. I'm told there's been plenty of interest from clubs in Buffalo Sabres, Dylan Cozens, the Canadiens, the Flames, the Leafs, the Red Wings, and of course the Sabres, who have Dylan Cozens, are the teams that are involved here. So the Canadiens, the Flames, the Leafs, and the Red Wings. This is very interesting. Now, we've been talking about Dylan Cozens. There's been some rumblings about it, but we haven't, discussed it too much in depth. Kevin Weeks has been probably the best NHL insider so far this season for breaking news and breaking trades. And Darius, the Leafs are in on Dylan Cozens, which is very interesting because he is a young player and he could really fit the timeline for this team over the next couple of seasons.
There's a lot of different reports from a lot of different reporters. And I mean, Kevin Weeks is usually pretty accurate. He waits till the last second to say what's going on. So obviously he has some insight on who's interested in Dylan Cozens. He tweeted out a photo of a Buffalo street sign yesterday just to get people riled up. And when I first initially saw this, Dylan Cozens makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams, right? And it's been, the buzz the last week or 2 weeks or so, because it looks like the Sabres want to move off of him for whatever reason at this point, and he probably needs a change of scenery. And when I saw the Leafs included in this, my initial reaction was how and why. And then it turned into, oh yeah, all the reports we've been seeing the last couple of weeks that maybe have seemed confusing about the Leafs wanting a second line center make a lot of sense with this move, right? If they were to get this guy, here's your second line center of the future, right behind Austin Matthews, it's Dylan Cozens. Then you'd have John Tavares on a lower cap hit as your third line center moving into the future. So this could be what the plan is now. The only hiccup is his cap hit, right, at this point. And what did the Leafs give up to make room for this player heading into the future? They can absolutely make it work if they want to, but I'm not sure if the Buffalo Sabres are going to be interested in the Leafs spare parts for one of their better younger players that they could probably get a really good package from another team for. So it's going to be interesting, but my initial reaction again was like, how do they make this work? Why would they make this work? And then it turned into this actually fits the bill of everything we've been hearing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and some of the other teams involved, the Canadiens, the Flames, like these teams can give up a lot of assets. So if the Leafs are going to get in a bidding war, then things might get interesting here. And let's not forget, 18 hours ago, Pierre LeBrun, about 2/3 of the league, has checked in with the Sabres on Dylan Cozens. And then, of course, Kevin Weeks comes out with the big report breaking down that, narrowing that team down, obviously, from 2/3 to 4 teams or so here. So Dylan Cozens, the player, is very interesting. There's been a lot of buzz around it lately. I think the Leafs should make a serious offer for Dylan Cozens. They can make it work under the cap if they're willing to move on from players like Domi, Kemp, and Reeves. And if this trade goes down, this would be considered probably one of the bigger trades out of the realistic possibilities the Leafs can do here. And it seems like Dylan Cozens' time in Buffalo is nearing a close. Like you mentioned, the Kevin Weeks tweet about, of course, the street sign. And then now the report that just dropped saying that they're most likely going to move him. There's just a lot of buzz going on right now. But man, oh man, is his cap hit hefty at $7.1 million. He is under contract until 2030. So the Leafs could make it work. And if they want to kind of add a young piece, Brad Treliving loves control. We talking about it all the time. First line center in Buffalo. For the Leafs, he'd probably be that second line center for the future, which then in theory gives you your third line center anyway in John Tavares. And you can obviously move everybody down, whoever you want to put at the fourth line center, whether that be a David Kampf, who would probably be moved off in a trade like this to help salary because he's making a ton. It makes so much sense the more you think about it. I would love for this move to happen. He's young. He's under control. He's 26 points this season. The problem is he's having a bit of a down year, but he is making a ton of money. So it's a little bit of a risk given his extensive contract, a former top 10 pick back in 2019 here. And I don't know, makes a lot of sense here for the Leafs, though. He is it's a pretty hefty contract that the Sabres gave him given his point production.
Yeah, but if you look at his point production, keep in mind he plays with the Sabres, right? Like there's not much there. He doesn't have too many options on his wings or anything like that. He's playing as a first line center right now. So the contract actually doesn't bother me. It's just how do you make it fit this year if you're going to trade for him, right? That is the real question. And again, He's a top line center right now. He's still very young. He has a very high ceiling. I think if he was playing with a better team with actual, with a purpose and actual line mates, then he could probably, put together some pretty good seasons here. $7.1 million dollars. In terms of the cap, yes, you could make it work if you were to trade Domi, Kampf, and Ryan Reeves. But what do you think the Sabres are going to think when you go to them? You go, hey, we'd like to take one of your best young players who still has very high upside for all of our spare parts on our team. Like, it's just not going to work that way. So this is the trade that I see Fraser Minten being involved in, Easton Cowan being involved in. Like, that's what's going to get this across the finish line. But in addition to that, the Leafs have to move a ton of salary out. Like, maybe it is Max Domi, right? That gets this done because Max Domi, yes, he just signed the extension and the Leafs saw him as a part of their near future, but he hasn't had a great year. They're kind of shuffling around the lineup. He's playing a bunch of different roles, hasn't really worked this year. And if you can get your hands on the second line center for this team for the foreseeable future with Austin Matthews as the number one seed, and then John Tavares moves down, it lengthens the lineup like that. I think it's perfect. It solves a looming problem that you have right now. So it's a very interesting option. I don't think you can give up salary on defense. They have to find the salary to move out somewhere on offense. So maybe it is Domi, right? Maybe, and we've been hearing that the last little while. Fans are like, why don't you just trade Domi, right? Like, he has a pretty significant cap hit. Maybe Reeves is on the way out. You'd have to add a significant sweetener, I think, in that case. So it's probably Easton Cowan. It's probably Fraser Minten in this deal, first round pick, something like that. And you have to move salary out the other way. So it's going to be very interesting to see if this gets done. But this makes a ton of sense for what we've heard the last 2 weeks. They want a second line center. I was like, who are they going to go out and get? I don't want an older guy. It just doesn't make sense at this point. This makes sense because he has a lot of high upside still.
Yeah, and with the Leafs reports coming out that they're willing to trade Fraser Minten or Easton Cowan, at least that there's been some reports that they wouldn't be surprised if either of them gets traded. It goes as far as some reporters predicting that one of them gets traded. This would be the trade. Fraser Minten for Dylan Cozens makes a ton of sense, obviously with salary and probably still draft compensation. I don't know if it would take Minten and a first, but maybe it would take something like that, or even Easton Cowan. Something of that nature for sure. And looking at what they could use a guy like Fraser Minten as well. You're basically just resetting the timeline.
Yeah.
You're getting some other assets as well here. And let's not forget, they are looking for a 2 or 3rd line center, but don't have a lot to trade. I mean, they do have a lot to trade when it comes from young players. Picks wise, they don't have their first round pick in 2025, so they can't trade that. And again, if you're unfamiliar with Dylan Cozens and his age, he's only 23, about to be 24 years old in 2 days. So by the time the trade deadline is, he'll be 24 years old, under contract, plays in a horrible team. You could see him coming to the Leafs and really amping up his production and being a staple on that second line for years to come. And that's what they hoped from Fraser Minten. So maybe if they want to speed up the process a little bit, you package Fraser Minten, add a couple of assets, and then you kind of get a guy that you know is not only going to be hopefully as good as Fraser Minten in the future as well, like in 5 years down the line, but also a much better NHL player right now. And that's what they need when they're trying to win the cup in the next 2 to 3 years. So it makes a ton of sense. And I think from the Sabres side, if you get a high upside guy in either Easton Cowan or probably Fraser Minten here, you replace Dylan Cozens, you can slot him into the lineup, way less pressure. Is he going to be as good as Dylan Cozens? Probably not, at least not right now, but maybe in the future you can rely on him being a little bit better. And from the Leafs perspective, you get a version of Fraser Minten that, like, I'm not saying they're the same player, but a version of Fraser Minten that can help you win a cup this season.
Yeah, and in doing a trade like this, I would be totally okay with moving off of Fraser Minten and Easton Cowan. Not both in the same trade, but I would be okay with moving off of one of them because, Nick, if you can go back to the Sabres lineup for a second, because I know a lot of people are probably saying at this point in time, look at his point production this year for 7.1. This is not a trade you want to make. Look at his line mates in Buffalo, and then think about him coming to Toronto and playing with William Nylander and Bobby McMann on the second line. There's a huge difference there. There's no way his point production doesn't, skyrocket with line mates like that. Just playing with Nylander alone, right? So I think that he needs a better situation. He needs to play with some purpose. The Sabres are lost, right, at this point in all of their players' development. I don't know what's going on with the Sabres right now. So he needs a change of scenery. I think once he gets that, he's going to start playing to what, we knew he was supposed to be at this point in his career. And, again, playing with high, offensive line mates like that will help a player like that. So I think that this is exciting if they're able to get it done, but it's how do you get it done with the salary cap and his salary cap hit? It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, we're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and let us know, is this a trade you want them to make? Seems pretty perfect. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.